Good morning. I'm Sarah Gray, religious educator here at First Unitarian Church of Orlando. Today, I'll be telling a story about John Murray, who was a preacher who helped introduce universalism, the second U in our name, to America. If you tuned in last week, you'll notice that the storytelling format is very similar to the story we did last week on the first Unitarians in America, but this format is a little bit different than our normal Sunday story. That's because it's a story from Spirit Play, which is a religious education program that's derived from the Montessori method. This involves active storytelling with manipulatives, which you will see shortly, and this is followed by a time of wondering questions about the story. In the classroom, the participants will then be invited to select art materials and other hands-on materials in the room to respond to the story in their own way. So we'll stop short of doing that because it's kind of hard in a virtual environment, but you're welcome to respond in your own way at home. If you're intrigued by this new way of doing RE for our children and you want to learn more, I encourage you to reach out to me and anyone on our RE team. We are looking for members of our congregation to come into our classrooms when we go back in person and engage the children as storytellers using the Spirit Play method. If you like Spirit Play and want to help but have talents other than storytelling, we'd love to have you too. There's so much to do to prepare our spaces and get materials ready to launch this program whenever we do return. So if you want to learn more, you can actually join us today after the service in our congregational meeting, and I'll give you more information about Spirit Play as well as our other RE programs that we hope to launch upon our return. And now, let's explore the story of the minister from England, John Murray, who brought the ideas of universalism to our country so many years ago. John Murray Coming to America by Ralph Roberts. What could this be? Could be a big blue book. Maybe it's a big blue box. Sky is often blue. Maybe it's the sky. What else can be blue? The ocean can be blue. I think maybe it's the ocean. Let's see what else we have to work with. Maybe these two pieces can help us. They can go on top of each other like this. Or maybe they work better end to end like that. Ooh, maybe they could work like this. Let's see if that helps. That does help. This could be land. A shore. One here on either side of the ocean. Between these two shores is water. So much water. I wonder how much water there was between these two shores. So this is a story about a boy who was born on one of these shores. When he became a man, he took the long journey to the other shore. This boy's name was John Murray. John became a minister when he grew up. He rode around from city to city, teaching people how to love each other and love God. Many of the people where John lived believed that God punished people, sometimes in horrible ways. They also believed that God only cared about very few people. But John couldn't believe that God was angry and punished people. In fact, he was certain that God was loving. He also had a hard time believing that God only loved a few people. God was so big and so loving. John was certain that God loved all people. John traveled around letting people know that God loved them and that God loved all people and that God wasn't angry and wasn't going to punish them. But people couldn't always believe John. They would get so angry at him that they would tell him to leave their towns. John finally decided that he was finished with preaching. He had many sad things happen to him And on top of that, people didn't like hearing that God loved them. John decided that he wasn't going to preach anymore. He also decided that he was going to leave his country, which was England, and take the long journey to America. John got a job on a boat, which was sailing for America. It was a long trip. Meanwhile, there was a man in America named Potter. Potter was a farmer who owned a lot of land. Potter had been having the strangest dreams. He began to think that God was talking to him in his dreams. Mr. Potter had a dream in which God told him that he needed to build a church building on his land near the ocean, and that God would send a preacher who would come and preach from that pulpit. God also told Mr. Potter that the preacher would preach a wonderful message of love and that would change people's lives. So Potter did what he was told in the dream. He built a church building. And then he waited. I wonder if the minister will ever come. I wonder who that minister is. The boat on which John Murray was sailing finally made it to America, but the water got shallow and the boat got stuck just offshore. They had been traveling for a long time and had begun to run out of food, so the captain of the ship asked John to go ashore and buy some food to bring back to the boat. John came to the shore, and where was he? He was on Mr. Potter's land, and he ran into Mr. Potter. And Potter met John saying the strangest thing. He said, "You are the preacher who will speak the good news from the pulpit I have built." John didn't know about Mr. Potter's dream that he was to build a chapel and that a preacher would come and preach God's love. But as strange as it all was, John liked Mr. Potter and spoke with the man for a long time. He finally admitted that he was a minister, and though at first he didn't want to, John finally agreed to preach that Sunday. That Sunday, he climbed into the pulpit and told the people there to go out and give a glimpse at God's love. Give them not hell, but hope. John didn't stay with Mr. Potter, but he did stay in America, and he did start preaching again. He founded many churches devoted to spreading the message of love. I wonder if you had ever seen or heard any of this before. I wonder, what was your favorite part of the story? I wonder where you might be in the story. I wonder if John was ever scared that people wouldn't like what he was telling them. I wonder if Mr. Potter ever worried that the preacher would never come. I wonder if you've ever had a dream like Mr. Potter. I wonder what other ways God speaks to people. I wonder if Mr. Potter was happy or disappointed when the preacher came. I wonder if this lesson reminds you of any of our Unitarian Universalist promises. I wonder where the spirit of love and mystery could be in this story.